Welcome to Verbal Alchemy, Mastering the Art of Debate from Apping Club. Today, now we'll get started. If you can hear me and see the slides, please type yes in the chat. We'll get started. So, first of all, right, we have to talk about this is like I'm pretty sure everyone already knows, but what is an app, right? An app, the definition of it is just a software program designed to perform specific tasks or functions on a computer or mobile device. Apps can range from utilities like calculators and alarms to social media platforms that you guys probably use like YouTube, and then games and even productivity tools. They can be downloaded or installed on devices for personal or professional use. This is a very generic definition of apps, right? Everyone hears about this, right? It's not anything special. It's not unique. So let's redefine that, right? Let's redefine the definition of app. So my new definition is an app is a purpose-driven solution made to achieve a specific goal or to meet a particular need, right? These apps need to combine functionality, design, and reliability to ensure that they just don't, it's just a service. It's more of an application to help and achieve a goal and serve a purpose, right? And obviously in doing so, you have to try to, have an engaging or intuitive user experience. So apps need to serve a purpose. That's like the core of an app, right? If you don't have that, then an app doesn't have the soul and the spirit. But anyways, what do we do in the Apping Club, right? We teach you and guide you in how to make these apps into not generic. We go from the normal application to the new apps, right? And also we will have guided discussions, lectures like this, workshops, and all these events to try to engage you guys in these tools that you guys need to be successful in this journey of app development. And in addition, we have a very big community now, just breaking 300 members, and now we're looking for people to establish chapter clubs to further our expansion. So it's a great opportunity if you guys want to join. Now we want to use the Apping Club as a platform to help everyone to build this community. It's like a big family, right, of app developers. So now, if you guys haven't joined, I'm pretty sure most of you guys have joined. If you guys can just press the join on the slide, you should be able to join. There's like a link that I attached. So I'll show the slides to everyone first, so everyone have that. And of course, if you want to know what we do about websites and all of our past events and programs, recordings are all on YouTube and our social media platforms. But anyways, apps, right? What do? First step, you do the idea, right? You want to conceptualize what you're making. So this is a lot of stuff. As you can see, like I've listed a bunch of other parts of creating an app under the three main parts. The three main parts, as I said, first step, conceptualization, and then we have design/development, and then we have launch and evolution. This is a very oversimplified, in a nutshell, explanation of the core components of apps, right? Apps are very complicated. It's not just like, oh, okay, so I make the app. You have to think about like all of these components, right? For example, for ideas, you have to think about like, okay, so does this idea work, right? How is this idea good? In our past events, we have talked about what makes an idea good, what makes an idea successful, right? The key tenets of a successful idea. Then you will realize, like, oh, okay, wait, if I want to have this idea to achieve this purpose, right, then we have to do market research. Because if we don't know how the market works, if we don't know if there's another similar product than us, how do we know if our idea is unique? How do we know if our idea is not overly cliche, right? And how do we make our app stand out in a specific niche? So that's market research. And then you have to actually build the stuff, right? Build the stuff, test it, debugging everything. And then you have to think about like, okay, so if I need to present the app well, then what do I need? I need good user experience and interface, the UI and UX, right? And then we have to make sure the test, like we have to do the finalized testing, revision, make sure everything is all good, quality is good, right? And then we do the presentation, marketing, right? And then afterwards we do the distribution, we release it to the public, everyone can use it, and then we have feedbacks, right? Then from the feedbacks, then we improve the apps and fix the problems that we encountered, right? So that's the maintenance and update. This still, even though it's much more than a three on the top, it's still a very oversimplified version of creating an app. But these apps, once you create it, I know a lot of you guys are like probably doing competitions relating to apps. We don't want to just create an app for competition. I win a prize. That's it. We need to have ambition. We need to have something called striving for the better, right? If we don't have that, then our app will just be limited. It's stuck with a restraint. We cannot have that. If we want our app to be actually beneficial, not just for the purpose of winning a certain competition, which it shouldn't just be winning a certain competition, because if you set your goal as that, you're never gonna do stuff, accomplish stuff, or be successful. It's just like how John D. Rockefeller said, the man who starts out simply with the idea of getting rich won't succeed. You must have a larger ambition, right? If you think about getting rich and that's your goal, you're not gonna get rich, right? So same thing with apps. If you want to make sure your app is successful, then what do you need? You need ambition. It's not just about winning this competition. It's about how your app can actually be put into a market and be successful, be able to impact more people. And according to Aristotle, his quote is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence. Then it's not an act, but a habit, right? If we want to make sure something is good, then we have to keep improving it over time. Competitions is just a way for you to test, okay, so does this idea work, right? We go to competition to see, like, even if you don't win, it doesn't mean your idea is bad. It just means that you need more polish. I view going to competitions as a way to polish your skills of app development. At first, when you go to competition, you're gonna realize, oh wait, my presentation is not good enough. Oh, my app is not good enough. Oh, my time management is not good enough. And then you don't really win anything. But over time, as you like build experience, then you'll know what do you need, right? These skills that we have just mentioned, right? But we shouldn't just be limited in that. We need to strive for more because that's the only way for you to become successful and unique. And also, apps is very special. It's not just restrained in the field of CS because, apps we can expand to any field, even the topic of today, debate. We can even make apps for debate, right? Because apps is like very fluid. It's used in every field. It's very versatile. But then we come to this problem, like, we have ambition, right? And what do we have? We have ego. There's a very big correlation between ego and ambition, right? According to Abdul Kalam, which is a former president of India, ego is just like dust in the eyes, right? Without clearing the dust, we can't see anything clearly. So clear the ego and see the world. So his point here is that ego is an obstruction to learning, right? If you have too much ego, then you're gonna be like, okay, so, oh, I already learned everything. I'm so good. But you're not actually really good. So that's the problem with ego, right? When you have overinflated ego, that you start to ignore and minimize the mistakes and the problems that you have. Well, so the second point, it prevents us from admitting the wrongs that we do. And another thing is that it definitely hinders personal growth by making it difficult for individuals to recognize and address their weaknesses. So according to this perspective, ego is viewed as something very negative, right? Ego is something that blinds us. So to be honest, I don't personally think this way. I will now basically debate for my own point because I believe ego has a role. It drives ambition. It's what makes us want to be the best. It's the emotional reservoir from which passion arises. With ego, what do we have? We need the confidence to face challenges. We need to be able to have this confidence to stand out and stand up for our beliefs. In this case, our app, right? When we present our app during like a competition, if the judges ask you questions like, okay, why did you make this idea? Why you think about this? Why other people made this app already? Why did you make this? Right? What make you stand up? Right? Then you have to have this confidence to speak out and stand up. Right? You have to argue, even if there's this conventional idea. Like in here, ego is viewed as something that blinds us, right? But I feel it's actually just something that drives ambition, and we need that because we need the self-worth and the belief in our ability so we can actually move forward. And then also continuing the metaphor from the past quote, I view dust, like think about it, dust, right? It says dust blinds your eyes. Dust makes you realize, oh, okay, I can't really see anything. But another perspective of dust, what if you think about dust as a recognition of the purpose of eyelashes? Without dust, we're never gonna realize the purpose of eyelashes. we probably won't even have eyelashes due to our evolutionary theory. So I feel like instead of viewing dust as like something that blinds us, we can portray it as a protective barrier. It shields us from the very excessive external criticism and negativity that usually shuts everyone down. And in this way, the same goes for ego, right? It provides us with this protective barrier of confidence, of motivation, and ambition. It allows us to have dedication and persistence. And also, another following this metaphor, ego and dust, it challenges us. Like without dust, you won't probably like you don't you know how when you like dust gets in your eyes, you like rub your eyes, you blink, right? You clear out vision and adjust. Same thing with ego. When you have ego, it challenges you to fix the problems that you have, and then you have to clear and find out the balance between the ego, right? Obviously, I agree with the point where like overinflated ego will cause a lot of problems because it's true. But with ego, then you'll understand how to adjust it. If you never try, then you're never gonna know. Humans are constantly learning. We never stop. And my final point, dust in nature over time becomes diamond over time through compression and pressure. Ego, if you refine it and use it well, then it's also going to be a key for you to improve your app, for you to have the ambition and passion in making your app. If you don't have passion in making your app, then you're not going to be able to make anything. You're not going to be able to be successful. So this directly correlates to what I have to explain, the importance of debate, right? What do we need in debate? We need presentation and defending, right? If we don't, that's like the two main points. Because with debate, you're able to enhance the critical thinking and analytical skills, innovation through perspectives, and also you will build a very effective way of communication and collaboration. So what does that help? That's something that probably most of you guys ask, right? Because debate might seem like a whole world apart from app development. It's not. Because as I said, the key points of app creation, presentation is a big part of it. And what's part of presentation is also defending. If you cannot defend your app, then your app is not really going to work, right? It's not going to stand out. When you go into a room, even your physical appearance of how you dress, that portrays what kind of impression that you bring, right? So that's also very important. All right, but with that said, now let's introduce our guest speaker, Mingyue Zhang. She's currently a freshman at Dartmouth College, majoring in neuroscience and economics. She's a very well developed and seasoned debater, and she has a lot of experiences in all kinds of debate formats. And she specifically excels in topics ranging from global affairs to social justice. And beyond competitions, Ming has coached many other debaters across Connecticut and also have co-founded a debate class at her local Chinese school. And also, she also served as an equity officer for the New York Parliamentary Debate League. So now, let's have a warm round of applause to welcome Ming.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Tony. So hopefully everyone is able to hear me clearly. Okay, perfect. I'll share my screen. Let me know if everyone can see this. All right, Tony, are you able to see this? So hi, everyone. Welcome to Verbal Alchemy, the art of mastering debate. Mastering the art of debate. So a few quick notes before I get started. This lecture is for debaters as well as app developers. So my background is mainly as a debater. I've debated throughout my high school years, all 4 years, but I'm going to help you guys cross-apply the skills that one would learn in debate onto app development. So that will come at the end of my presentation. Second quick note, which is there's no barrier of entry or understanding for this lecture. So it doesn't matter how much you've done debate. If you've never done debate, I'm not going to be using any jargon. I'm going to explain like everything in this slideshow in a way that like a layman can understand. But basically, I'm hoping that anyone from all skill levels of debate and public speaking is able to take something away from this presentation. So that is my goal as I created the slideshow. And thirdly, finally, please feel free to ask questions. I left an empty slide in the middle of my presentation and towards the end. So there's like 2 opportunities for you guys to ask any questions that you want. Feel free to type it in the chat. And then I'll pause in the middle and then at the end to do Q&As, basically. So what's the plan for this lecture? There's 4 sections or parts to this lecture. First is talking about the principles of debate and what debate actually entails, what you need to get good at public speaking and debate. Second is how to get good, so like the strategies, the ways to practice, and my personal experiences in practicing and getting better at debate. Thirdly is debate and technology and how debate skills can be cross-applied to app development, whether that is actually the process of developing apps or the process of presenting your app to an audience. And then obviously questions and answers. All right, so Tony gave a great introduction of me. My name is Min, but I'm going to give a quick story before I start with the actual lecture content about my experience in debate, my journey throughout my high school years. So a quick story about me is in these 4 bullet points. I started debate in the freshman year of high school. I did not have any debate experience prior to this. And then the first tournament I went to, I actually got last place. My speaker points, the way that I was ranked, I was like the worst debater in the entire tournament. Then I was inspired to debate, and then I debated for 4 years. But this is the quick story, the TLDR. The long story is actually a little bit more complicated, and I'll go into the context of that right now. So the reason I started debate in my freshman year wasn't because I wanted to do it, actually. It was because my friend dragged me into it. So my friend basically said that she needed a debate partner. She was also a freshman in high school. And since she wanted to join a debate club, for the first tournament, she needed a partner. And I was her best friend. And she asked me, and I said yes, even though I had no experience. So why I got last place in my first tournament, there's 4 main reasons. But first was because I had no experience coming in. So some debaters who are at a high school level will already have done debate in middle school or elementary school. But high school is like generally where people get serious. But for me, I felt I was basically behind because of the fact that I had never done debate. I had never done any competitive public speaking before. So that was the first reason. The second reason is English is not actually my first language. I moved to the US a few years before starting high school from Shanghai, China. And so I had never become confident in my speaking abilities, and I had never needed to publicly speak in English in front of an audience where I was judged for my speaking. So that was another barrier. The third was I actually realized as I stood on stage that I had a severe fear of public speaking. So while I was debating in this first tournament, my hands were clammy, I was evidently sweating, and I was stuttering through my words throughout the rounds. And the fourth and final reason was I had no idea what I was talking about. So to give more context, the first tournament I went to, the topic was about the economic virtues and drawbacks of having an Amazon headquarters being placed in Connecticut. So I think 4 years or 5 years ago, when I was in freshman year, this was kind of in contest because a lot of states wanted the Amazon headquarters, but I didn't read the news and I did not know that this was happening. So going into the round, I had no idea what I was doing. I was not confident in my abilities, and I was also scared of messing up in front of a lot of people. So evidently, I lost every single round in that tournament. I spoke very badly, and I got last place. So why was I inspired to do debate? At this point, after the pre-elimination rounds, which is the first 5 rounds of the debate tournament, I had lost every single one of them. I was very ready to quit because I had made a fool of myself in front of my partner, in front of the judges, in front of people who are going to the tournament, in front of my opponents too. But after the pre-elimination rounds, we go into elimination rounds, which means that the top 2 teams who had won every single round so far and had scored the highest in terms of their speaker points would face off in a final round in a grand auditorium where everyone was able to watch. So since I was already at the debate, I thought, yeah, I'll just stay for like 1 more hour to just witness this final round. And basically in this final round, everyone who had debated in the tournament filed into the auditorium where the finals were going to take place. Once everyone was seated, the lights started dimming until we can only see the finalists up on stage. The finals began. And the speakers on stage were the complete opposite of me. They were confident, their rhetoric was clear, their replies were witty. And as I wrote in a couple of lines in my college essay, this is what I felt in the round. The two sides on stage exchanged ideas like shrapnels of verbal gunfire. They constructed arguments as if it was an art, and they were painting monuments and cathedrals in midair. Throughout the speeches of this final round, I was continually being swayed between the speakers as they went on with their arguments. I found myself convinced by one side, and then the other side would go up and speak, and I was convinced by the other side. So by the end of that round, I understood something very important, which was that language is power, and debate is the ability to affect others with your words, and persuasion is the ability to shape the worldview of others. Because as the speakers were going up, presenting their cases and speaking, I found myself questioning my own beliefs and agreeing with one side and the other just because of the way that they were talking and their content of speech. So because I wanted, that was the power of rhetoric, which was something that I learned by the end of that round. And because I wanted to be someone who is able to affect others, who others will want to listen to as I spoke, I started debating and studying debate. And that was what I did for the next 4 years. So what is debate? Debate, in my opinion, is the rigorous, methodical, artful exercise of logic, reasoning, and persuasion. And specifically, we're talking about competitive debate. So in a competitive debate round, there's a bunch of formats, from like Lincoln Douglas to like parliamentary. But basically, regardless of format, to simplify what competitive debate looks like at a high school level, debate rounds have a topic and two sides. And then one side will support the topic and the other side will oppose the topic. And then in one debate round, there will be like a series of speeches where you present cases, you respond to the other side's cases, or like you try to take down the other side's cases, and then you have to defend your own case after the other side has tried to refute your case. So, and then finally, there's also like obviously a judge, an adjudicator, or multiple judges that will determine who won or lost the debate based on your ability to present your case, like how many arguments are still standing at the end of the round. So that's a rundown of debate. And now I'm going to talk about like the principles of debate and what I learned about how to become better at debate throughout my 4 years. So debate broadly comes down to 3 important things that makes you good at debate and win the round. So first is strategy, which is all the elements of a debate, which is, are you able to construct a good case, or are you able to construct arguments for your side? Are you able to refute, take down arguments of the other side, and are you able to weigh effectively, which means at the end of the round, are you able to show that your arguments that are still left are better than the other side's arguments that are left? Second is style, which means like generally, do you sound persuasive? Are you using filler words? Are you conveying enough emotions and passion? And thirdly is the content, which is about all your knowledge base. And do you know what is happening in the world? And are you well-versed in topics of debate, such as politics, philosophy, economics, etc.? All right, I'm going to go through each of them one by one and talk about the ways to improve on each of them in order to get good at debate. So first, on improving debate strategies, what do you want to be strategic or good at in a debate? First, you want to be good at argument generation, which is the ability to basically generate as many good arguments as possible. And good arguments being the priority and many arguments being like the secondary goal. The second thing you want to be strategic or good at is reason generation. So you're not going to be persuasive just because you come up with good arguments, because you still need to provide reasons to support those arguments and reasons to prove that those arguments are true. So an example is a common debate topic that comes up in debate is whether we should increase the minimum wage. So an argument in this case could be, we should increase the minimum wage because this increases the quality of life. And then 4 reasons to support this could be, first, if you're increasing the minimum wage, then people have more disposable income, which means that potentially you could be lifting people out of poverty. You could be giving them better healthcare, better mental health benefits. Second reason to support the idea that minimum wage increases quality of life is that people can move to a better area with better schools, with better education. with better resources if they have more money, which is what comes with increasing the minimum wage. A third reason could be increasing demand. So what that means is basically the runoff impact of having more wages is that people are able to buy more things. And when people buy more things, companies are able to pay their workers more, which continually increases the quality of life for the workers. And then a fourth reason, see how I'm generating like multiple reasons to support this argument here to like really bolster it. A fourth reason could be time. So with the increase, if the minimum wage increases, then people can spend less time working and more time outside of work, spending time with their families, engaging in play, engaging in entertainment, which makes them happier and increases the quality of life. So see how like as you generated more reasons, the arguments sounded more persuasive. And then also the third thing you want to be strategic at is refutation generation, which is being able to consistently generate multiple pieces of strong responses to like the other side. I'll give an example of this too. So a common argument that comes up in rounds that have to do with social justice is that we shouldn't take an action or we shouldn't pass legislation because of potential backlash from, say, like the other party who is not supportive of this legislation or backlash from like the public. So a couple of responses to that, just to come up with refutations to that, is like backlash goes away because of legislation, as you see in like the past when women were allowed to vote, that changed the public's perception of what a woman's role was in politics. So like legislation can actually change the way that backlash works and change social norms. So backlash is not a reason to not pass legislation. Another response could be like backlash goes away over time because norms change and we value like the long-term impacts of having a legislation over the small, minute impact of like a little bit of backlash in the short term. So that would be like what refutations look like in a debate. And next thing you want to be good at strategically is to be able to weigh effectively. So what I just showed was weighing, by basically weighed long-term impacts over short-term impacts. So weighing is being able to take the good arguments of your side, and then weigh them out persuasively against the other side. So like you are saying that there is some impact that the other side is able to gain, i.e. the short-term impact of backlash, but the way that you weigh this is against the long-term impact of your side of having legislation, which means that your side still wins, even if the other side's material is still standing. So that is weighing. And then two last things that you want to be strategic at in a debate is round vision, which means looking at a topic and then within the first few minutes, being able to have a good idea of what the clashes or what the possible arguments that will come up in the round are. And then finally, for strategic debate tips is the ability to have a lot of like stock arguments prepared. So that just means being knowledgeable on the common arguments that are run in debate, which is, as I just said, backlash arguments against social justice. And then there's like in econ rounds, you'll usually have inflation arguments in multiple topics across the debate. There's generally going to be like similar arguments that come up over and over again, just because of like the similarities between topics. So you want to be strategic about understanding those as well. Part two is on improving your debate style. So how do you speak and like what kinds of rhetorical flourishes do you use? Like what is your style? So on developing style, this is actually arguably the hardest thing to teach to someone because there's no right way to like talk. There's no right way to debate. And you could be like a really passive debater. You could just be very straightforward, just hit the facts, hit the stats. Or you could be someone who's very passionate, very emotional, speak slowly to really emphasize certain points. Then that just all depends on like what kind of person you are and what you're more geared towards. And I've seen debaters across all spectrums who are really, really varying styles and are really, really good at their style. So it really depends on you. But generally, to develop a style, you want to develop certain rhetorical flourishes. You can add inflections in your speech. You can slow down or speed up your speech at certain points. So there's a few interesting ways that I put down to improve this, and some of them I did. The first is to take really famous non-debate speeches in history and read them out loud in like a really, really dramatic way, and then record yourself and then see if you like it. You'll feel silly in a moment, but it will be helpful. And the second way to improve is just listen to many, many, many good speeches to get inspiration. And I did this a lot. So here I have two clips. I'll show like a few minutes of both of like the debater that I listened to very often while I was trying to improve on my style. So this is Bo Seo, who is the world's best British parliamentary speaker. And in 2016, he debated on Harvard's debate team for British parliamentary, and he won the finals. So that is the bottom clip over here. I'll just play it for a few seconds to make sure the audio works. Tony, let me know if it works. All right, let's go. So I'll play 2 minutes of this. This is Bo Seo's intro to his constructive speech in the World Universities Debate Championship 2016 finals. Oh, and one more thing. The topic is, this house believes that the world's poor would be justified in pursuing a complete Marxist revolution. So you don't have to understand what that means, but I'm just here to show the clip, and that's the context of like what the round's about.
Madam Chair, the global poor, all around the world, and no matter what country in which they live, currently live in a system of dictatorship. They live under a dictatorship known as no alternatives, shackled by capital that's been unjustly acquired, constrained by landed gentry who have no incentives but to pursue their own interests, and chained by the fact that they can't do anything but to look at the question of their own subsistence. They're unable to reach out for the right to liberty and to self-determination that we think inheres in the human condition.
That was a really good intro by Bo Seo. And he basically introduces like the context of the round. He puts a lot of artistry into his intro, which a lot of speakers don't do, but I feel like is really powerful in terms of having a good persuasive style and like capturing the audience's attention at the beginning. So this is the other clip, and this is like one of my favorite intros, like probably my favorite intro of Bo Seo. This is the World University Debate Competition in 2015. And the topic is basically like, it's a little strange, but the topic is the idea of this house believes that we should have a city where like all the economic activity is run by women.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake in this debate. We live in a segregated state. Unlike apartheid South Africa, the majority of the world has men and women living together, eating together, and walking on the same sidewalks. But when the workday begins at 9 a.m., they go to different levels for different jobs for different pay. We say that the arc of justice is bending too slowly. Virginia Woolf said that in order for women to prosper, we need to give them a room of their own. We say fuck the room, we'll give them cities.
So powerful. Fuck the room, we'll give them cities. Like, that is bars. Like, in debate, you can do fun things like that. So if that convinces you, if that doesn't convince you to the debate, I don't know what will. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Now, thirdly, on improving debate content. Debate content is basically building your knowledge base and having a good understanding of the most important issues that can come up in a debate round, and like just having a lot of background knowledge on how the world works and how multiple debate topics works. So things you want to be knowledgeable about. I have listed a few. So for politics, you want to be you want to be knowledgeable about the US government, the justice system, electoral system, party system, and upcoming elections. For international relations, you want to be knowledgeable about Ukraine and Russia. You want to be knowledgeable about China's relationships with Hong Kong, Taiwan, the Belt and Road Initiative, any overseas interventions of different countries. In economics, you want to know generally how like the economy works, how demand, supply, labor, government regulation or development works. And then, yeah, social movements, you want to be knowledgeable about the most prominent social justice movements that are currently going on, a few of which I've listed here. And then for philosophy, you want to be knowledgeable on human rights, utilitarianism versus deontology, which are like the primary two methods of thinking about morals. And then you want to be knowledgeable about morals and virtues and where those arise. But also you want to be knowledgeable about like anything you are interested in, because anything that you're interested in can and may come up in debate rounds, whether that is art, literature, culture, shows, sports, or health. So the way to become knowledgeable about those things is just reading a lot and reading broadly and keeping up with the and I think this is like pretty helpful in general, just to become a more knowledgeable person and have more engaging conversations on a day-to-day basis as you talk about these topics. So how do you build a good knowledge base? I've listed a few resources and websites that I used as I did debate. So there's like the Council of Foreign Relations, the 538 website, Investopedia, and news sources. But also Wikipedia is a very underrated source to look at for general knowledge about any topics. And then before I move on from content, which is like the third principle of debate, there's two types of content in debate and two types of ways that you use content. Because there are some debate rounds where you get the topic a few minutes, like 15 minutes before the round actually starts. And that is where you need to have a really strong foundation and knowledge base in your brain to draw upon. So that is where like reading general knowledge is really good. But there's also debate rounds where you know what you're debating beforehand and you have like months or even a year to prepare for the round. And that is where you need to be really good at researching. So that is also where these websites can come into play. So an example of something that my team did as we prepared for International Public Forum debate, which is an international debate competition where we were preparing like months for the round beforehand. Basically, for that competition, we made content or debate cards, like debate arguments for every single argument that we thought could possibly come up in the round. And because we could bring like a binder into the round, we basically did hundreds of pages of research and building our knowledge. So that is the two ways that building a knowledge base factors into the round. So just keeping that in mind. All right, here I'm going to pause for any questions because I know that was a lot of information from like the principles and then talking about each principle to now. So I'm going to pause for a minute. I'm going to take a drink of water and you guys can type any questions you have in the chat. How do you gain general knowledge? So general knowledge for debate rounds, you will just gain as you read more, especially reading the news. But also you gain knowledge through the debate rounds as well. Because in the debate rounds, you will have to confer with like your partners. You'll probably be also learning knowledge as you debate. So that is how you gain general knowledge. How do we know if there are new topics we should know about? New topics that you should know about? Most of the times, a lot of topics that are about current events will be about things that show up on the front page of the New York Times. Like there's very rare occasions where a debate will be about something completely niche and irrelevant to like everything that the news and media outlets are talking about. That basically never happens. So as long as you look at the headlines like the new major news sources often, then you'll probably have a pretty good idea of what current event debate rounds can be on. And then other than that, new topics that you should know about. A lot of debate topics that you have never seen before can still use arguments that you have used for past debates. So there's like constantly new social justice movements going on as like we have progressed. But a lot of the concepts in social justice rounds will come back to like whether we should be more radical, what types of positions we should take on those social justice topics, like legislation and the ways to promote the agenda of the social justice movement. And so those will broadly apply even in new social justice movements. So that's like kind of the idea of new topics. Would I suggest reading the New York Times Daily as a debater? Yes, I do suggest reading the New York Times Daily as a debater. So New York Times, I'm pretty sure, has like a free subscription where they mail like the headlines of their articles to you every day for free. But if you actually want to read like multiple articles from the New York Times, then you have to pay money. There shouldn't be any like barriers to debating, so I'm not going to suggest that you pay for like news, because there's a lot of free sources of news, such as like Google News or AP News, that you can just read for free. But yeah, New York Times Daily is a pretty good way to get your daily dose of current events. All right, for future questions, I'm going to reply to them in the end. So the Q&A, there'll be like another Q&A section after I finish all the slides. All right, continuing on, and I hope you guys enjoy the memes. Okay, continuing on. There's one last thing that I did not tell you guys about how to improve at debate. The ultimate super secret sauce for improving at debate is practice. A very wise man once told me the best way to get better at debate is to debate against people who are better than you, lose very badly to them, and then figure out why you lost so badly and how to do better for the next time. So how do you want to practice? You don't want to overwhelm yourself with improving everything at once. So what I would recommend is looking for a few things, or even just one thing that you want to improve on at a given time. A few goals every week, and then focusing on them individually. For example, your goal could be refutations, or working on weighing, or working on making interesting introductions to speeches. And then you should have also the same thing, a few goals for each tournament. And then at tournaments, you can get really good direct feedback from your judge or your partner. So you can have a few goals in mind, and then after each round or after the tournaments, you can ask your judges and partners to give you feedback on those goals that you had in mind and see if you achieve them to the degree that you wanted. And how do you practice? So you want to do practice speeches, which is basically you can do this at home, you can do this anywhere. Just do a few minutes of prepping and sketching out a speech that you want to give, and then just speaking in front of a mirror, on video, or in any other way. The second way to practice is to watch debates. The way that you watch debates is you cannot just do this passively. So the best way to practice through watching debates is actively taking notes, paying attention to what the speakers are saying, analyzing their arguments, and kind of like going along with the debaters as if you are thinking of arguments along with them. So, and also you want to do this with really high quality college rounds. And there's a lot of these on YouTube. There's a lot of playlists that people have made. For example, there's like an entire playlist on YouTube for both SEO debates. There's like 20 videos in there. So personally, what I did was every day after I came back from school, I would watch a 1 hour long debate recording and then take notes and analyze how they did and like what I think I would have done in that round. Third way to practice is to do drills. So a way to do drills is drilling down onto your weaknesses. For example, you can drill down into writing your cases. For random topics, you can drill down into making refutations. And also you can do fun drills or make it a game for yourself. So one thing that we did in debate meetings at my school was something called the hot air balloon, where people go up in front of the room and then they choose to be a historical figure, and they have to convince other people to not kick them out of the hot air balloon. So you can also have fun with your drills and have fun with practicing. And the best way to practice is obviously to just do debates. Debating is the best way to get better at debate, and learning from past debates, what you could have done better, when you lost, what you could have done better, when you won, that is probably the best way to improve at debate and public speaking. And evidently, in my journey, I lost a lot of rounds. I went to upwards of 50 plus tournaments, and I did not get a single award until the last 2 tournaments of my sophomore year. So, all right. And personally, other things I did to improve. I read a lot of debate books. So I asked my captain what were books that he recommended for debate. And then my captain at the time gave me the recommendation of Thank You for Arguing, The Art of Rhetoric, and other debate books. There's a lot online that you can just search up. And I sought feedback from other people very often. So I sought feedback from opponents, from the judges, from my partners, and even myself. And the way that I sought feedback from myself was I just watched a lot of videos of myself that I recorded of myself debating, and then I would critique myself. So seeking feedback and doing active reflections is a really good way to improve. And the third thing I did to improve was at a certain point, I was always thinking about debate whenever I had free time. So I was thinking about debate while I was eating dinner. I was thinking about debate like in my sleep. I was thinking about debate basically everywhere. I honestly believe the best way to improve at something is to make it a part of your everyday life and just to always be thinking about it. And then the fourth way that I improved was I just enjoy the journey. I was not going into debate thinking that I had to win a certain award or that I had to become like a national champion. But I honestly just enjoyed the process of learning, enjoyed the feeling of myself improving with every tournament that I was in. And a part of debate is that you have to recognize that there's a process to get you to being a good debater and a good speaker, especially if you're starting out with no experience. So not being too hard on yourself and not giving yourself a strict deadline to improve, and just enjoying the journey and enjoying the process of learning and developing the skills that would make you a good debater is very important to improving. And so after all of that, what did that give me? So firstly, I was obviously the champion of New York parliamentary debates. I was the first speaker at their national championship, and I had won about 20 debate awards by the end of my career, whether that was like individual speaker awards, team awards, like national qualifications, or awards in like different summer camps or programs I went to. So yay for me. But also more importantly than the awards is the second two things, which is firstly, I gained a lot of valuable soft skills in terms of interpersonal communication skills, public speaking skills, writing skills, which are all things that you develop throughout debate. And I also made a lot of friendships. There was a lot of valuable relationships I made through the debate, from being on a team with them or even debating against them. Because when you're in a debate round, everyone has a goal of trying to learn more, trying to get better, and that fosters a community of trying to work towards bettering yourself and others, even if you guys are from different schools and are opponents. So here is a picture of my debate club. These are of us in the first picture on the top. And then in the picture right under that, that is my school and us winning at Yale Invitationals. So in that picture, the first 4 people are people from my school. There's me, my partner, and then 2 other debaters in my school. But the other 4 debaters on the right-hand side are actually all from different schools. And These are friends I made outside of my own school and my own debate club, and we got really close. And even though we were going to debate against each other like pretty regularly, we still have like a bond between us, and it was really sweet. And then in the picture on the right of that, there's us at another debate tournament. I think debate is a really good way to make friends because everyone is really smart, everyone's really talented, and everyone is working towards like improving. All right, now for the section that you guys have probably all been waiting for is how do you transfer skills from debate to app development and debate to app pitching? So I wrote down a few things. There's probably many more skills that are transferable from debate to app development, but these are the most prominent ones in my opinion. First is communicating. In debate, you have to communicate and articulate your ideas, and you have to practice public speaking as well as presenting your arguments. In app development, you have to communicate with your team, with your partners, with your group to develop ideas, present solutions to each other, and you still have to have that public speaking ability. In debate, you also have teamwork because a lot of debate formats will require you to be in a team, or like in a team from 1 to 5 people. So a lot of debate has to do with teamwork. You have to discuss ideas, you have to prepare and work towards a single goal with your teammates. And that is very similar in app development, where you're developing and coding with other people. You probably have to discuss and prepare and work on that code together. The third thing that you can cross-apply is learning from your mistakes. In debate, previous debate rounds will inform future debate rounds and what you have to work on. And in app development, it's quite similar because the code or mistakes that you have made in your past projects can still be applied to future projects. And also for fourthly and finally, is debate allows you to develop cognitive flexibility because you have to look at a topic and engage with it from many, many different angles. And if you get a topic, you need to be able to prepare a lot of different arguments and a lot of different reasons to prove or disprove that topic, which is why you develop a lot of cognitive flexibility as you do debate. And that cross applies to app development because the whole idea of developing an app is you have to look at a problem from many different angles and see what is the best way to solve that problem with the app that you're developing. So that also requires a lot of cognitive flexibility. And then on transferring skills from debate to app pitching, that is like much more clear. So in debate, obviously you have to generate arguments in favor of your side. In app development, you have to generate arguments in favor of your app. And although there isn't a side particularly, you are still arguing against the potential possibility of your app not being accepted and your pitch not being accepted. So you have to convince, so there technically still is two sides, whether people should use your app and invest in your app and whether your app wins, or if they don't see the value in your app. So that is like the two sides of an app development, and the speeches that you have to give will pertain to like forwarding your app. In debate, you have to prepare for your opponent's questions and arguments. And in app development, you have to prepare as well for questions and critiques. And in debate, you have to prepare for obviously your debate speeches. And then in app development, you have to prepare for pitches and conferences. And that goes back to developing debate content and knowledge base and being able to recognize how the world works around you. So yeah, Tony, do you have anything to add?
Nope, actually.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
all right.
What I wanted to say, I don't know what happened with Echo, but what I wanted to say is like, this is basically the key of debate and app development. And following what I said during the start about how it is so important for you to have this debate skill, because it's like a skill, right? It's not really like something that is different. It's debate itself, as you said. It's like a really good skill to just have, and it includes like the whole skill set, right? And that whole skill set is really beneficial for just in general communication, and also almost like usable in all kind of fields, and especially in app development too.
For sure. So the last thing I'm going to basically talk about before we go to summary and then Q&A is why exactly would you not do other things to improve your public speaking? Because this whole time I've talked about debate, and you might be wondering, is debate really like the best way to improve your public speaking? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So like the alternatives to doing debate to improve our public speaking will be things like practicing through your class presentations. You could do student government. You could do Model UN. You could do mock trial. And yes, you can absolutely do all of those things. And I think all of those things have value in improving your public speaking, your teamwork, and your leadership abilities. But there's a few things I'm going to add to show you why debate is like particularly unique in my opinion. So the first reason why debate is unique in terms of developing public speaking skills is there's just so many resources and free resources that you can use to learn for debate. Because there are a lot of people who do debate, there are a lot of debate formats, which means there is a lot of demand for debate education. And so there's a lot of supply for debate education. And maybe you cannot find that in like other formal public speaking competitions, because debate is probably the most popular and the most common public speaking competitive activity that you can do in high school. So one example of this is that like my public high school had no coach, and basically we paid for no resources. Everything that we used for preparation, everything that we used for research, which is free websites, many of which I had listed in the content slide. And my public high school was one of the top debate leagues, like one of the top debate teams in the entire East Coast of the United States. So debate is truly a merit-based activity. You do not have to pour a lot of money and like extra resources into it in order to get better. I think that's pretty unique. The second is that people in debate are generally really, really willing to help you because you have the fact that there is a type of community and culture that debate generates where people want to get better and are looking for that intellectual stimulation of debating against really good opponents. So they kind of want people to get better. And also the fact that you can build debate teams across different schools and across different regions is what has also contributed to this culture of like trying to help other people who are in debate. The third reason why debate is unique is that there's just way more opportunities to practice in debates, in competitive debates than other activities. So during the height of, let's say, like during the height of my debate career, which was a junior year, I would say, I went to like 2 or 3 debate tournaments every single month because there's so many different formats that you can debate in and because there is so much accessibility to doing debate. So because there are more opportunities to practice, you get more feedback, you get more opportunities to improve, and you get more opportunities to get better. And I think that is very unique in debate. Like, for example, in Model UN or a lot of business conference competitions, you only have 1 or 2 per year. And so it's really hard to know if you are actually improving during that stretch of time where like you're not at a competition and you're not getting feedback, right? And also in debate, there are a broad range of topics and discussions. So you really have to think about, and you really have to think on your feet. And those skills are also really cross-applicable to app development. And the fourth and final reason for why I'm going to convince you that like debate is really unique is debate is basically, if you compare debates to other public speaking activities, debate is a gourmet buffet, while a lot of other activities might only give you leadership, might only give you like teamwork, and might only give you public speaking. Like student government, you might be only mainly focused on teamwork and leadership, and you don't have to do a lot of public speaking. And in Model UN, you might have to do a lot of public speaking, but you might be only debating like about politics all the time because Model UN is about politics and economy, and you don't get like the diverse range of thoughts and ideas through doing Model UN. And like in classroom presentations, obviously it's not very rigorous. Like only your teacher is judging you, and their feedback isn't going to be as deep as when you have professional judges or your teammates looking at you and wanting you to improve. So debate gives you a lot of things in just one singular activity, which is why debate is really unique in helping you improve, in helping you get better at public speaking. All right, so that kind of brings us to the end of the slideshow. In summary, there's a few things I want you guys to remember and take away, which is firstly, the 3 pillars of debate comes down to strategy, style, and content. Second is the fact that anyone can be persuasive, and if you start from the bottom like me, you can be proud of starting from the bottom because there is just way more to learn, and it's much more interesting when you start from the bottom, and it makes for a better story. And the third thing is that practice makes a really good debater. So practicing is important, and there's a lot of opportunities to practice. And then finally, and probably most importantly, is the fact that debate skills are very transferable, whether that is to the business world, to academics, to college applications, to interviews, to app development, or app pitches. Debate skills are very valuable to all those other areas. All right, and so let me know if you guys have any questions about debate, about college, or about life in general. All right, let me read through the chat because I've had it like unhidden.
Yeah, right now it's the perfect time if you have any questions to ask.
All right, which format do I prefer? I prefer American parliamentary. So American parliamentary is very extemporaneous style of debate where you get the topic 15 minutes before the debate round starts. There's a new topic for every single round. So in like the preliminary rounds, you'll get 5 different topics you have to debate on. You have 15 minutes to prepare with no online resources and no written resources. So you can only write down and use arguments that you can generate with your brain. I think that's the most fun because I don't have to do a lot of preparation beforehand, like formal preparation beforehand. Obviously, I read the news beforehand and like I look through past debate rounds and listen to videos. But yeah, I think American parliamentary gives you a unique set of skills to think on your feet, and it's more realistic because you in real life, you don't have like weeks or months or years to prepare for a single discussion or conversation. So I like American parliamentary. Can you share some links for great debates on video? Great debate videos on YouTube? Sure. So let me just take this. Oh, this is the playlist I was talking about. I'll put these.
There's nothing more powerful.
I'll put these in the chat. I'll also put these on a slideshow afterwards, and then Tony can share the slideshow with everyone. This one's the Bo Sale one. There's WDC Canada, I believe. Yeah. This guy is also a really good debater in British parliamentary. I'll put that down here. And then I actually made my own playlist for debate videos that I liked, and it's in my other YouTube account. So I can give that to you guys as well. But yeah, you can also look at NYPDL, which is the parliamentary debate league that I debated under for much of my debate career. So NYPDL is New York Parliamentary Debate League. They post a lot of their videos. I'm in one of them. But it's a round that I lost in. So take that as you will. I think it's still a really good round. It has like 300 views. But if you want to see me losing a debate round, that's where you can look. I'm not going to tell you the name, but that it's there somewhere. There's also NPDL. Okay, if you guys don't have any more questions, I'm just gonna like do this one last thing. So NPDL is the National Parliamentary Debates League. I think I might be in one of their videos. I'm not sure. But yeah, they have like hundreds of debate videos from their debate tournaments and championships. So if no one else has any extra questions, all right, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So what other extracurricular activities did I do in high school? I was involved in social activism. So during COVID, I noticed an influx of, as probably many of you did, an influx of hate towards Asian Americans. So I started a organization at my club called Asian Activism, where we campaigned in the state legislature and we testified for a House bill in Connecticut called House Bill 5282, which would mandate Asian American studies in public schools. And now there is currently funding going towards that project. I also did a lot of organization with like local campaigns towards similar goals of remedying the hate towards Asian Americans during COVID-19. And then other than those two, so debate and activism was like my big ones. I also was president of Arts Club. I was a chairwoman in student government and raised a couple thousand dollars for different student events in my school. I did academic decathlon, and I was in charge of like economics and a little bit of speech and debate in academic decathlon. And then like a lot of extraneous things other than that. So I was like in every single honor society in my school.
Now, if you have any further questions, feel free to ask in the Discord. Both me and Ming are in the Discord server. And also you can feel free to reach out to her through her contacts. But anyways, that's all for today's event. I hope everyone learned something new, maybe spark their interest in debate, and try it out. You know, it's really about trying everything. But with that said, I hope you all have a good day, and I'll see you all in the next event. All right, bye-bye.